Hey everyone, here today with Jimmy Farrell, and he does a local newsletter in Charleston, South Carolina called CHS Happenings. And I just met him a couple weeks ago, and he's got a great story. He's doing a lot of cool stuff out in Charleston, and excited to dig in. So thanks for being here, Jimmy.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, and I got to be honest, I don't know how you sleep with all the stuff you got going on, TJ.
Well, I got help because yes, it is a little crazy, but it's fun though because we're in. The reason I'm doing it is because I know this space has so much potential, and I want to capitalize on it as much as possible. So it makes it easy to work really hard and do a lot when you know you're in a space that's growing. Again, I always say I came from the insurance world, which is like the opposite, right? AI is coming to, have a big impact there, and here I think it's the opposite. AI is actually going to help our business, so I'm even more excited. So. Yeah, it's a little crazy, but sometimes I get jealous of guys like you just running one because I'm like, man, if I was only doing Leander, I would be doing so many more things.
Well,
But
but
anyway,
you at the beginning of what you just shared, TJ, you shared something, you shared a word or a phrase, I got help, which has been my problem. We can get more into that
yeah,
as we go on, but
totally.
yeah, that makes a big
Actually,
difference.
I would love to talk about that because again, my team knows like, well, obviously I have 15 newsletters right now, so obviously I'm not doing it myself. But even like, so I have multiple people, but even just like one person who's good can be a game changer. I mean, not even in just what we're doing, right? In any sort of entrepreneurial endeavor, if you can afford it, and it's not that expensive. So, yeah, I would love to dig into that at some point. But before we do, though, Jimmy, give everyone, the basic origin of why your time and when you got to Charleston, when you decided, and why you decided to start this.
Yeah, sure. So I'll try to condense it. So I am actually a DC native. I was born in DC, grew up just outside of Washington. And my background career is in commercial real estate, as a commercial real estate broker for 31 years, all throughout the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. And how that ties to local newsletter is what I did, TJ, was I was a specialist in leasing retail space. And so I was the guy that you would call if you had a great business idea for a retail restaurant, yoga studio, or whatever. My sign would be in a window of a shopping center or an urban storefront in downtown DC, or one of the apartment buildings in some of the suburbs that might have ground floor retail space. I was the guy you would call to talk about leasing that space. And what that I enjoyed the heck out of it. I did it for 31 years in DC, and that really gave me an appreciation for local business,
Mm.
one that's really not contrived, frankly. I know a lot of people are all about pronouncing shop local, dine local. For me, I dealt with plenty of reps for Home Depot and Old Navy over the years, but what I really, really liked throughout my career was dealing with folks that put their blood, sweat, and tears into and money into their business. And so I did that for a long time. We loved Charleston. We were vacationing down here, started probably 16 years ago, and looked for reasons to come back. We can talk
Hmm.
more about Charleston and
Hmm.
why I think it is ripe for growth for me. But we moved here in May of 2019. I took a little time off. I decided I didn't want to do what exactly what I did in DC in Charleston. It's what I like to say is a young man's game to get started in that business. Um, and so I took a little time off and then transitioned into doing residential real estate with my wife, Kim. As part of that, TJ, you might see a lot of residential real estate agents that or on Instagram that kind of promote local businesses, and they'll go into a cupcake shop or a bakery or
Hmm.
do reels. And I was doing a lot of that. I started, by the way, residential real estate down here 4 years ago, um, and I was kind of doing a really what I want to call rudimentary version of blog
Hmm.
posts on my real estate website about local business and retail businesses. And I was always I'm always continually looking to learn, and I was following Matt McGarry, and I took his. I knew that I really wanted to elevate my game in terms of presentation and what I was putting out there to my real estate audience primarily at that point. And so I took Matt's cohort last March of 24, and my first issue of CHS Happenings was June of 24. And by the way, CHS is the airport code for Charleston.
Hmm.
Everybody kind of knows it.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I got started.
Okay, awesome. So it's been about a year and a half. So kind of crazy to think that a year and a half has actually put you kind of been doing this longer than I think most people probably watching this. So that's interesting. So what are the basic stats like if you're up for sharing them? You know, how many subscribers you have and yeah,
Yeah,
anything else?
of course. So, keeping in mind that, my primary, what I call my day job, is still my residential real estate thing.
Mhm.
I wanted to grow CHS happenings fairly deliberately and organically. So from June of 24 to February of this year, it was all organic.
Mm.
Fair amount of, just out in the community, which as a residential real estate agent, we have to be. And I
Mhm.
actually enjoy all that part. Um, so I went from 0 to around 875 subscribers in June, or I'm sorry, until February. And then I started putting ads behind, or money behind meta ads, starting as I said, in February. I
Mhm.
passed about 3 weeks ago 10,000 subscribers.
Nice.
And I dialed back, frankly, the meta ads a little bit. We can talk
Mhm.
about that in a moment because that's one of the more challenging and frustrating things. I feel like TJ, had a pretty good start on meta ads because I was running them for my real estate business.
Oh, gosh, you
And
had experience already.
yeah, and the thing
Okay.
about real estate is, I was talking to a guy who used to do a ton of meta advertising in the real estate world. And he stopped because he stopped a long time ago. And he had an interesting expression. He said that, yeah, I stopped advertising on Meta when Facebook neutered real estate advertising. And what he meant by that is, you have to pick a special ad category in real estate. And this ties
Mhm.
entirely to a settlement with the Department of Justice relating to fair
Mhm.
housing laws. Don't need to go down that
Yeah,
path.
yeah.
All that to say is that in the at least 2 years of crafting real estate ads in that constrictive environment where you can only do 18 to 65. You can't do racial
Yeah.
demographics. You
Or
can't.
age.
You can. Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's your
yeah.
targeting base.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
It's the
18 to
same in
60.
insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even yeah, I even trying to do an insurance newsletter, like it's really hard because they just assume you have all these regulations essentially, even though it's like that's not what I'm doing. But of course, there's no person you can work with, so it's
Yeah.
frustrating. Yeah.
It's the same in real estate. It's the same in real estate lending. But what that did is I like to think that really helped me hone in on the way that you target in those real estate
Mhm.
ads is through interests, when you
Mhm.
dial down into interests. And it really helped me dial into copy and assets and everything. That doesn't mean that I've got it down, by the way, because rounding back around to CHS happenings, that was the juice as many local newsletter operators used to grow from what was at 875 to over 10,000 a few weeks ago. And as I mentioned, TJ, I dialed it back a little bit because honestly, some people might think some of our colleagues, for example, in the newsletter club, that are really interested in learning and doing all this stuff, they focus on monetization almost from the very beginning. And
Mhm.
I didn't do that. I really focused on growth. And I'll be honest with you, we are just starting kind of our monetization program and outreach to local businesses, and have experienced a reasonable degree of success. And so until we really dial that in, I kind of want to back off on the meta
Yeah.
ads.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're over 10,000, which again, there's no special value to 10,000 versus 9,000, other than it just emotional, right? It's like 5 digits instead of 4 digits. But it actually makes a lot of sense to say, okay, we've done this on some of my newsletters as well that have crossed 10,000, even
Hmm.
some that maybe are close and haven't, but which is, um, it's not like advertisers are going to be like, oh, well, I would pay you if you had 12,000, but you only have 10. Oh, I'm not interested. Right. Like that's not going to happen. So the growth, you need it to get, again, ideal is getting over that 10,000. So you have that number that's going to wow the local business. Like, yeah, this is legit. You've got 5 figures. But until you start getting enough revenue, does it make sense to just keep spending to grow from 10 to 11 to 15? That's not going to get you more ad dollars, right? So I actually think you're making the right decision. I'm doing something very similar, so makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Well, and the way I looked at it, TJ, honestly, was the reason I started it was to kind of my thought process was it was an adjunct to my real estate business, And my mindset was, well, I'm going to put all these dollars, and was spending 1,000 to 1,500 bucks a month in meta ads, um, because it will benefit my real estate business. And that is
Hmm.
true. It did. It elevated our so-called brand in Charleston, because we came here cold, man. I mean,
Hmm.
while we were vacationing here for many, many, many years, and I knew I would make it a point every time I came here to walk the streets and drive the streets and drive the neighborhoods. I knew all the neighborhoods, but when we came here, we didn't know anybody.
Yeah,
We
you
had to
don't.
build it all from scratch.
Yeah, what a
Um,
great way though. So
yeah,
smart of
yeah.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's the way I looked at it. I'm putting all this money behind ads for CHS happenings and not really focused on monetization, because it will feed the real estate business. And as it turns out, it has done that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, tell me about that. So, well, let's get into, because you are in a potentially a great role of what I think a lot of people need to do, which is you should be doing the local newsletter because you have another business that you could promote, right? Which means you essentially have two revenue streams from the newsletter. Hopefully, you're selling ads to local businesses, but then also you can make money by promoting your own business, in your case, real estate. So, and the way I think about it is there's two ways to do that, right? One is just run ads for your business. Again, I don't know. Do you have like a name for your brokerage, or is it just you?
Yeah,
And
no, it's me and my wife, and it's pretty simple. It's the Farrell
just
Group.
the Farrell
It's a
Group. Okay.
small group, but
So
it's the Farrell
yeah,
Group.
yeah. So you could just, like, I'm working with some people who, like, they don't really personal brand the newsletter. They don't really talk about themselves, really put themselves in it, but they'll
Mhm.
run ads for the Farrell Group or whatever their business is. And just, it's like they own the ad slots, right? So that's how they treat it. And then there's the other idea of personal branding by talking about yourself in the newsletter, right? We went to this festival.
Yeah.
Here's pictures of us at the festival. Here's our favorite restaurants that we go to every Friday, things like that. Of course, you can do both, which I think both is the best play, but you don't have to. There's pros and cons to each. But so what are you doing as far as the personal brand side, running ad side, or both?
Yeah, so one of the decisions I made early on with CHS Happenings, TJ, was to do what you just described, which is to make the brand about me, Jimmy Farrell. And that
Okay.
wasn't out of
Hmm.
ego. I know some
Hmm.
people do, when they start a small business, a really small business, when they're solopreneurs like me, they will refer to themselves and the business as the royal we. And I
Hmm.
decided early on that I don't want to do that. I don't need to do it. I want to build a connection, and I want people to know that there's a real deal human being behind this
Hmm.
this brand CHS Happenings, that it is out in the community, that is a regular at many of my favorite local businesses. One of my sayings that some of my folks, my subscribers, have heard or read, I should say, several times. There's a couple, right? Is I'll walk past 10 Starbucks to get to the best local coffee shop. And that is bona fide true. Yeah, I'm a big runner, and in Charleston, you can find a group running, or 7 days a week if I wanted to. And there's been times where we'll run past the Starbucks, there's one in particular near our home, that will have a long line of people in the drive-through, and I want to go knock on their windows. I've not done this, and I won't do this, but I want to go knock on their windows and say to them, "Do you not realize there are some great local coffee shops here? Why are you
Hmm.
spending money there?" But I understand it's about habit.
Yeah.
But anyway, rounding back to what I was saying, is that I have wanted it to be about people knowing that I am in the community, and I constantly write about
Mhm.
that, right, all throughout the Charleston area. Um, and one of the things that I think does set me apart from maybe other local newsletter publishers, or I should really say media,
Yeah.
is the fact that I did have those 31 years in commercial real estate, specializing in restaurants and retail. And I
Mm.
have an eye for properties and storefronts and what's happening to that restaurant, and is that restaurant kind of losing their touch. And it's what you hone over 31 years. It also gave me the ability to have credibility and developing relationships with all of the specialist retail real estate brokers here in Charleston, where I can get scoop from them, and they
Mhm.
don't mind sharing if it doesn't
Yeah. That's.
it doesn't expose their client, and their client is okay with it. And so I've
Hmm.
done a lot of scoop, where I've scooped the local newspaper.
Wow.
One of the things in particular, um, was I scooped them on the location of the second Trader Joe's in the Charleston area, which is a
Mm,
big
That's such a
deal.
That is, we have the same thing. There's one coming where I am, and it's a big deal. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a long way of answering your question,
Yeah.
maybe about my making it. CHS Happenings is Jimmy Farrell, and Jimmy Farrell
Hmm.
is CHS Happenings.
Well, I love it. And I think that is the best strategy. Again, anybody doing this, it doesn't have to necessarily be you. Like, again, one of the guys I'm working with, very, very successful, would not have time to do something like this. So he paid somebody. Somebody's literal full-time job is the newsletter, and she's the face of it, and she's out in the community and all that. So it doesn't have to be the business side person. They can always find somebody. But I do think that is so important because, I mean, again, if you think about, if there's no personality in the newsletter, AI is coming to do better and better, right? And so how do you differentiate is by proving that you're actually there and speaking like a local. And I think there's so much value in that. So speaking of this exact topic, which is interesting, and I'm glad you brought up the Trader Joe's thing, because it is crazy how important that type of stuff is. Like, again, scooping or like providing the info of what fun thing, like stores or businesses are coming to town. But the best way to do that, obviously you should do it in your newsletter, but is also social media. So let's get into a little bit. Are you doing Instagram or any social media very much yet? Specifically like kind of custom video type of content, as opposed to just reposting things that are in your newsletter, which again is better than nothing, but probably not the ideal thing to do. So where are you at with social media?
Yeah, so with social media, my primary, you have to pick your spots, right? I always say that. Don't try and spread yourself too thin. And when I was on the commercial real estate side of things, LinkedIn was like the go-to social media platform. LinkedIn, in my estimation, is not great for local business and local
No,
newsletter publishers. It's just not where
no.
our subscribers hang out. It's not where our potential sponsors hang out. And so where I've really focused, TJ, is on Instagram, and I've started to, it was flatlined for a long time because I didn't focus on it, and basically all I did was post. As Matt McGarry, as I learned in his cohort, and I learned a lot in his cohort, was doing the pre-publishing and post-publishing CTAs, the call to actions, right? To try and, in fact, I did a ton of that when I was mentioning I was growing it organically. Now, what I've really spent time doing is, and I'm doing more and more of it, is going and doing local interviews with great
Mm,
business owners, and
yep.
they will be not podcast style interviews like this, by the way, because it is short form, is where I'll take footage of a great coffee shop, and then I'll sit with the owner operator for 20 minutes and learn their origin story and learn how the heck they got to opening a great new coffee shop in North Charleston. I was at an operator recently, business, and that has, I think, also differentiated me somewhat from other local media. Um, where I'll write about an interview with those folks. One in
Hmm.
particular, there's a great. I'm an avid reader, among other things, and there's a great bookstore opening tomorrow called Ladybird Books on King Street, which is our shopping district, our so-called high street, as the Brits call it. Um, and I just reached out to her on Instagram, and I think what helped well, in fact, I know what helped is that I had established a relationship with her PR company, the PR company in
Mm,
town. And when I reached out to them, or to her on Instagram, I kind of had immediate credibility that A, I was tied into their PR person, but B, the fact, like what we talked about a few moments ago, which is creating the brand to put side by side CHS Happenings and Jimmy Farrell.
hmm.
And so I'm spending a lot of time doing that. And what we talked about at the beginning when we said you have help.
Hmm.
I don't. It's me. I am the essence of a solopreneur.
Hmm.
And I know to really grow this, I need to start farming stuff out, and I
Hmm.
want to do that. And for me, it's not necessarily, well, I suppose it is about control a little bit, right? I am not, people that know me would say, yeah, he's not a control freak. I do delegate, um, but I think I've spent so much time trying to get something that works, and my metrics kind of at this point are very, very solid. and show that it's resonating with my subscribers, I've wanted to kind of have my fingers in all those pots. So I'm thinking, frankly, about farming out some of the social media at this point to really,
Mhm.
get that from close to 5,000 Instagram subscribers to over, 30. And that's my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think you should do that. Again, the hardest part of finding help, assuming you're trying to do it cheap overseas, is just, there's so many great people overseas, but percentage wise, the people you'll find are not good, right? So you have to like sift through. So, you really have two options. One, you go to an agency that basically, essentially all they're doing is doing the sifting for you, right? They have the process down. They'll take 100 resumes and they'll find the top 5 out of the 100 because 95 won't be good. And then they just present you those 5, and which is great. You can do it much faster, but of course you're going to pay them a bunch of money for that. Or you do the sifting yourself, which is a pain in the butt, but cheap. And so you're spending a bunch of time. So, right, like almost anything, right? It's, do you want to spend time or do you want to spend money? But again, I do recommend doing that. My preference is always generally to have somebody be full time for me, because I always just worry about them getting too distracted, doing other things. And you never know, you actually get somebody good and then the other person they're working for wants them full time and then they're gone. Right. So, I know that's not always ideal cost wise, but personally that's my general preference. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's worth it.
yeah, no, and I think that right now I want to pick that where I'm going to, as I call it, farm out, right? And I'm thinking maybe social media, but honestly, one of the things I'm really thinking about is trying to figure out, and this is difficult, and I'm all ears as to advice, is how to farm out the outreach to potential sponsors. And do I even want to consider doing that? I don't know. Because that, as I mentioned, is my primary goal right now, is to start, monetizing, because
Yeah.
I have created something that is resonating here in Charleston.
No, I mean, man, there's a lot to hit on there. So, yeah, let's definitely talk a little bit about this, because I've started to do some things. Some things are working, some aren't. I've got some things in the pipeline that I'm very excited about that we haven't started yet, so don't have any insights per se there. So actually, before I say that, I just want to throw out one other thing about the Instagram, just for anybody, from my perspective. When it comes to the fun business thing, because I get so excited about that because that actually works so well. We actually, the person who's doing Instagram for me right now, she made a video about this fun business that's coming to town that we've known about for like a year. It's like halfway done construction. It's called Shields. It's like, think of it as Bass Pro Shops, but for real sports. No offense to Bass Pro Shop people, but
Yeah.
like actual like Dick's Sports, but with the like giantness and uniqueness of Bass Pro Shop. So there's like a Ferris wheel inside the like store, like crazy stuff like that. We've known about this for a year. We've written about it a bunch. I think I made a video about it 6 months ago. And so it's like not news per se. Like everybody knows. She made a video about it like last week, just like, oh, here, Shields is coming to town. Here's what it's going to look like. And it got tons of engagement, right? It's
Yeah.
like not breaking anything. It's just, hey, it doesn't technically exist yet. It's under construction, but people are still, you just never know what people don't know. That's another thing, right? Is don't assume people know what you think they should know because you've written about it or you've talked about it.
Yeah.
Just keep making content about the same thing over and over. Like, I guess the point of the Trader Joe's thing or anything like that, make one video a month about it till it opens, and then make 3
Yeah.
videos about it after it opens. Like, there's, people love it, so just keep doing it. So that would be my quick advice. There.
It's great advice. And it's something that I got stuck on, frankly, early on, TJ, was making that assumption that, well,
Yeah.
that's old news and I don't want to talk about that anymore. But I have come back to, for example, um, the same story, so to speak, about a major big shopping center redevelopment and all that that's going to bring in the West Ashley neighborhood of Charleston, probably 4 times. Because I got over myself and thinking that, everybody already kind of knew about that, so they didn't want to read about it again. And the other thing that I have to kind of constantly reinforce with myself is that, particularly on Instagram and social media, is who the heck knows what the latest flavor of the month algorithm is and who
That's
that's getting
exactly
served
right.
up to,
Of course.
So,
I mean, they don't put most of what you put out doesn't even get sent to the people following you.
right.
Right? Like, they chose to follow you and they still won't put most of what you do in front of them. So they won't know unless they like typed in CHS happenings into the search bar and then scrolled through all your content. Like nobody does that, right? So you just have to assume 5% or less of people have seen what you do. And this goes for, I have the same problem on Twitter where I get, I try to put content like what we're talking about here on Twitter, and I just get stuck with like, oh, what new ideas do I have to say? And of course, that's the wrong attitude. It should be, what things have I said that resonate with people, and how can I say it in a slightly different way for the 98% of people who didn't see it the first time I said it? So, yeah, just make more content, I think is the point, right? And especially the kind people like, which is new fun businesses. So there's that. Okay, on the monetization side and like outreach. So a couple things that are kind of new. So we started running the ads for advertisers on Meta, and those work, relatively. We are getting a lot of leads from them. Now, the bit of sales that a few of my partners have done on these, it kind of would go as expected, which is, most of them, the ones that are legit, which I don't know exactly what it is, but, a decent amount are legit. They're very small businesses. Like a lot of them are even just side hustles, right? Yeah. People just like, oh, I'm doing this thing, I want to get out in the community. Very, very small. So you're not going to get rich with these. They're not, the hospital system in town is not filling out that form, right? So if you're already at scale or want to be making $500 a month for 6 months per subscriber, that's probably not the right strategy. But if you just want to get $100 or $200 for an ad, it can be a great strategy. One of my partners who, I think this may be a good example for people. My own newsletters and even some of my partner newsletters where they're very smart and even very good salespeople, but they're very busy, so they don't do it as much. And I have a new partner on newsletter that we just started like a month and a half ago. He's already sold 5 ads, and we just started less than 2 months ago. We have like 1,500 subscribers, basically 0 followers on Instagram. Like we have nothing, and he's already sold 5 advertisers. Wow. And the answer is, why is that? Because he's hustling. He's a college kid and he's got time and he's hustling, right? He's making calls. He's doing these things. And he said, all of them have come from these ads. So again, these ads work. I think he was selling slots for like $200. But still, like, this is real money for something that just started. And I think it was he just told me this yesterday. So it was a good lesson of, so much of this is just about the effort that you put in, right? In terms of the sales side, it's how much are you willing to try to get in front of people and try to sell them, because at some point they will come to you, but it's not going to be for a while, right? Like at the beginning, when you're just getting going, you have to be putting in the effort. So, I thought that was a good story that for that newsletter, we have very little going on, and we're selling legitimate ads specifically just because of effort. And of course we're doing those, they came from those Meta ads, but,
it's interesting. Yeah. You mentioned that because, one of the things that I know differentiates me from a lot of other people is if you're in commercial real estate for 31 years, TJ, and the primary difference between what I did that I mentioned to you earlier and residential real estate is that the length of the cycle is insanely long in retail real estate. I mean, just crazy long. You can start a deal with a Domino's Pizza or a Home Depot. It doesn't matter. And that deal doesn't get signed until 18 months later, generally. I obviously contrast that with residential real estate, which is, 60 days. But what that did in 31 years of honing all the skills to be successful in that business is it helped me develop a system of just crazy efficient follow-up. If I can sniff a lead, now translating that to CHS happenings and potential sponsors, and see, this is the conundrum. Do I really kind of want to farm that out? I'm not sure I do. I think I'm talking myself into not doing that, at least initially. Because
it's funny you say this. Okay, the follow-up side. So this is something else I'm working on that's new. So I'll just kind of talk about this with you now. This is all so new, but I'm pretty confident this is a good thing. And I do have a way to help people with this, which I'm excited about. Maybe I'll get into it later. But so we signed up for a platform called Go High Level a couple weeks ago. Are you familiar with Go High Level?
Yes.
Okay. So the idea being that you can use Go High Level for automated follow-ups for leads, right? And so again, one of the things I'm working on is coming up with a plan where I can give people Go High Level as part of my package, which again, I don't want to get into it now, but that's something I'm working on. So for anybody, if you're interested in that, message
Yeah.
me, where I have all the pre-built automations and follow up. But so to your point, the way I think about this is you do want to automate the first outreach or as much as you can before they're interested or before you talk. Like, so the way I think about it is as soon as they respond in any capacity, boom, automation is off. Like, you take it over.
Yeah.
Right. So what we were doing, and again, it's so new, I don't have much feedback yet, but was, okay, when somebody fills out the form to be an advertiser on Meta, that we have the automations where that all their information goes into Go High Level, and then we put them on a sequence on Go High Level. Hey, thanks for saying you're interested. We'd love to feature your business. Let me know what your business is, and let's see what we can do. I don't know, whatever it was. And if they respond, then me or my partners are jumping in. Right, no more automation after that. But if they don't respond to that, then another email hits them, 2 days later. Hey, I didn't hear from you yet. I really want to chat with you about showing off your local business, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you should do that if you can, but just to your point, you want to be as human as possible. As soon as they're interested, it should be you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I recognize that, in any sales related or outreach business, it takes multiple, as the marketers like to call it, touches, right, of somebody. And you can follow up text, call, combination, email with for example, a real estate prospect numerous times, and they never get back to you. They might have even responded to a Facebook ad, and yet they never get back.
They still,
That's just part of the game, right?
That's
I
how it
recognize
works.
that.
Exactly.
It doesn't frustrate me. It's a so-called numbers game in a lot of respects. But one of the things that I really kind of want to figure out now is, building that. What's the best kind of tool and way of building that prospecting database of locally owned businesses with the high lifetime value? That's what I'm going to focus on, right? And I'll be the guy that really got me thinking about that was Ryan of Naptown Scoop. Ryan's a Maryland guy. I'm a Maryland guy. I chatted with Ryan, and he focuses on. There's one real estate agent that sells high-end homes in Annapolis, Maryland, which is what my wife and I do. Who spends a lot of money on his platform, but he's also got dentists and doctors and Botox clinics, I think, and all those people. And so I'm sitting here trying to think, okay, what's the best way for me, the most efficient way for me to build that prospecting database of, and there's tons of businesses like that here in Charleston.
So
yeah.
So here, there's two thoughts on that. The simple version of what you're saying, simple-ish, of course, it's not that simple, but John from Scottsdale does this kind of thing. I think the last episode he was on with me, I know his audio wasn't very good, but he talked about this. So he uses Smart Lead. So what you can do is you need to use Smart Lead as the cold outreach. It's basically cold email tool. And then you can use something like Outscraper to get the data. So you go into, and this is something I'm hopefully going to start doing here soon, although I have another plan I'll go over in a second that may be even better, but more expensive. So you go into Outscraper and then you put all the industries you want, the ones you just laid out, right? Dentist, insurance agent, med spa, blah, blah, blah. Scrape all of those, get all their emails, then put them in Smart Lead and basically cold email all of them. And, again, at that point, it's a numbers game, but at least to your point, in that way, you are targeting the high value industries where, again, the meta ad problem is you're getting the side hustlers, which is not, if that's not what you want, don't do that. So Smart Lead plus Outscraper or some way to get the data, put them in a cold email system. And that would be the simple version of what you're saying. The downside of that, of course, is, cold email generally has a low response rate, right? So, it's not the ideal way. So I am working on something right now, very early days, but where it's almost like a fully featured system of like, we target those people everywhere, right? So we find out who owns the med spa. We're hitting them, we're DMing them on Instagram personally. We're DMing the business. We're friend requesting them on LinkedIn. We're commenting on their LinkedIn post to, we're all of these things where we're like really targeting and just hitting them everywhere. I'm excited about it, but again, we just started working on this last week, so it'll be a little bit before I know if that's successful. But
So that's almost like
yeah,
some version of retargeting at ads.
well, it's not ads because it's
Right.
almost exclusively DMs,
Yeah.
right?
Gotcha.
So it's like it's trying to go direct to the person, right? Like again, what I would put it as is it's building a relationship, right? Like running ads or even cold email is not
Yeah.
a relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's not building a relationship. When you're DMing people from your own Instagram, your own LinkedIn, where they can then see, oh, this person, oh, they're in Charleston, okay, and they have on their LinkedIn, they have 10,000 subscribers for the media company. Okay, maybe I should respond to them, right?
Mhm.
So that's the idea. Again, you could do everything I just said manually, and
Mhm.
again, maybe you should or could do that because you had said it's interesting. You said that LinkedIn is not where people hang out, and mostly you're right,
Mhm.
except the bigger players. So we always think about the bigger players, like think about it as like the regional advertisers, right?
Yeah.
The banks, like the marketing team for the banks, the agencies, the power company executives or marketing team, whatever. Those people are on LinkedIn,
Huh.
right? So most small businesses are not, but the bigger players and their marketing teams are on LinkedIn. So that if you want to get, that's where you can get those $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month partnerships, because to them that's nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they're regional players. So um, I'm excited about the potential here for this because that is where real success is going to come in on the advertiser side is getting in front of the big players and not the coffee shops or the insurance agent with two employees. You want to get in front of I have somebody who's going to come on next month. He's got an insurance company for the entire state, like paying him, I can't remember how much, but it was like over 2 grand a month.
Yeah.
Because it's like, their marketing budget for the entire state for an insurance company is huge, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's how you get in front of those people is either LinkedIn or it's inbound because your social media is so good. But
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that from the perspective of LinkedIn, but you're right. And I also hadn't thought about, for example, going to Fifth Third Bank. What a great name for a bank,
mhm,
by the way, but they're based in Ohio,
I've heard
Fifth
of it.
Third Bank.
Yeah.
And they just started coming into the Charleston area in a big way. And I
Mm,
haven't even really thought about them.
yeah. Oh, banks
But
are huge.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, one of the right now, and this will change, I believe, but right now, TJ, my focus is I don't, or my mindset, I should say, when it comes to sponsorship income, is I don't need or want a lot of income right now because I've got my day job, so to speak. What I really want it for is to help me turn back on those meta ads,
Hmm.
and,
Yeah.
and and justify spending 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 bucks a month on meta ads. And the other, I'm on Beehive and I'm spending, I'm in that 10,000 to 25,000
Is that like
tier,
$100 or 150, something like that?
289.
Oh, wow. Okay. Are you in the
Yeah,
max?
that's what it
Yeah.
is for
Okay.
the
So that,
whole ball of wax. So my point is
that's
I want
interesting.
to kind of, if I get to a point where, I can invest 2,000 bucks a month, call it, on meta ads, plus the other various expenditures related to the publishing of CHS happening once a week, and I'm a happy man. And then later on, I can look at profit.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, I love the way you're thinking. I think that's the right way. That's like a kind of step by step way of thinking about it, which I love. So the two things I would do, well, I've done both of them, although I'm again not doing as good a job as I wish I would, but is if all you're wanting is, like you said, enough to, because you really only want to spend, I mean, maximum I would say probably is like 2 grand a month on meta ads. That's like max. Because once you go too high, your costs go so high, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So realistically, 1 to 2,000 is what you should be spending on meta. And then $300 for Beehive. I mean, whatever, call it $1,500 is what you need. You
Hmm.
should be able to get that from these small, like really small businesses, right?
Yeah.
That's 4 or 5 advertisers at $200-300 a month. So the two things I would do to get that quickly is number one, maybe you should try these meta ads for advertisers. Um, Again, I know that does cost some money, but like that might be worth trying just to get some in the door
Sure.
and have that like more warm sales pitch, get some practice, whatever. And then the other one is just going to the chamber events or however you can meet these business owners in person. If you go in there and say, hey, I got 10,000 people, I got this many on Instagram. I'm happy to feature you, run two ads a month and an Instagram, whatever, for $250. you should be able to get people, 5, 6 people to do that pretty
Yeah.
easily at that low of a cost.
Yeah.
So you probably could do that quickly if you put in either of those two things of effort.
Yeah. No, and I'm committed to doing that now at this point.
And you've got the
Um,
numbers for it.
yeah.
So
Yeah. I have a good
yeah.
story to tell. One of the things that, I'm also thinking a lot about lately. And if you were a subscriber and you read my last several issues, TJ, one of the things that I do at the outset of my subscription is, or my newsletters, is generally have a conversation with my subscribers. And as a result, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in a moment.
Mhm.
Um, I get a lot of emails, and I respond to every single one,
Nice.
from people offering their perspective, or their thoughts. And the reason I mention that is because, um, I changed things up largely. You and I had a conversation, 2 weeks ago, with your advice. Thank you very
Mhm.
much. I think I had mentioned to you that my open rates are, 71, 72% for the last 8 weeks, but my
Awesome.
click through rates were dropping. And
Mm.
I surmised that part of that was that I had trained my subscribers to click on the local newspaper, which is the Post and Courier, which, is the legacy media source in Charleston. They've been around since the mid 1800s. But there's a stinking paywall behind Article One. You can't even pull up any free articles. And so I was doing this. It's like you get caught in your day to day stuff, and you don't take time to think about what are you
Hmm.
doing. And then I had a
Yeah, no, it
light bulb
happens.
moment that thank you very much again,
Yeah,
TJ,
no
put
worries.
in my mind, which is maybe that's the reason why the click through rate is dropping, because people have gotten trained to click and then they have to sign up and they're not a subscriber. And so, point being is I went out to my subscriber base 2 weeks ago after our conversation, ran a poll, said, how many of you subscribe to the Post and Courier? 72% don't.
Hmm.
72% don't. And so I started doing, article summaries and stuff, and not linking to those within my Beehive platform and my website. And it's the early days. It's too early to
Hmm.
see where the trend and whether that goes back up. The other is the dreaded Gmail clipping, and I'm trying to still figure that out.
Hmm.
Um, and but yeah, I mean that's another thing that I kind of, just as I call it, having that conversation and grabbing the input of my subscribers frequently through either polls or just talking about it and saying, "Tell me what you think." I think Michael of Catskill Crew, of course, does an expert job of this, of talking, as I put it, talking to his subscriber base through his newsletter.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's what I've been
Yeah.
kind of focused on lately too.
Yeah, no, first of all, yeah, your open rate is killer. That's amazing. 70 plus is great. But yeah, I think that makes sense, right? If you're used to clicking on links and you basically can never read them, you just realize like why click on anything because it's not going to help me over time. So yeah, again, I don't know. Well, I know why those legacy players do that, but they need to figure something out because that's not a good strategy for them. Um, Okay, so tell me, what have I not asked you that you think is interesting or something you're doing that is maybe a little uncommon or maybe questions you have about something you're thinking about? Anything unique on your end?
Yeah, this one just flew into my brain, TJ,
Yeah.
is what we haven't discussed is publishing frequency. And
Okay.
I have gone back and forth over the last 6 to 8 months, and my subscribers have seen it live and, in my newsletters, about going to twice a week. I right now could never justify with, I got we all have all these various passions in our lives, and I have a lot myself,
Hmm.
in addition to real estate and CHS happenings. And there's only so much time in the day, obviously, right?
Hmm.
And I can never justify doing more than twice a week. But what I've come to, and I'd love to hear your thoughts,
Yeah.
is it, and again, it relates, I know, entirely to the fact that what we talked about earlier, where I don't have any help yet, my
Hmm.
choice, and I'm the solopreneur behind this. Um, is I've come to a point where I'm just about publishing every Friday. and trying to train, if you will, my subscribers through social media and in the newsletter itself to during the week going to the website. Um, and for example, one of the things I found out fairly early on here in Charleston is that people love live music, right? They love going to live music, and so I started publishing live music. I call it live music for your work week every Monday, and live music for your weekend on Thursday. And so my point being, and I'd love your feedback, is because I've struggled a little bit with this. Do I need to show to potential sponsors that I'm publishing more than once a week? And my answer for now is no.
So I think I'm a little confused. When you say, are you saying you are sending 3 newsletters a week? Is that what you're saying? Or
Yeah,
the website?
No. I am sending the newsletter every Friday at 7 a.m.
Just
But
one
when it comes
newsletter.
to the live music, those are web only.
It's web only.
Web
Okay,
only
okay.
that I'm promoting through social media
Okay.
and in the newsletter. Just making sure
Yeah.
that people know, hey, I know it's important for you. A lot of you folks want to go out and see a show on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night. You want to know about where they are. And so, yeah.
Okay. So as of today, you're just publishing a newsletter once a week, and your question basically is, should I go to twice a week? I mean, obviously you would jump from 1 to 2, not 1 to 3 or anything, right? Okay.
Right.
Again, I don't think there's a perfect right answer here, so this is just what I do or my general thoughts. Is I think, and again, I don't know how much it sounds like you're saying you're doing social media relatively well, but how many followers do you have on Instagram?
Just shy of 5,000.
5,000. Okay, so you're doing well, but you're not like crazy good.
Right.
The amount of work to do a second newsletter, which again is not, it's not incredibly hard work, but it takes some real time. I think unless you've sold out of ad slots, I would put that energy into Instagram versus a second newsletter. So, and this is what I know one of the smartest guys in this space has said. This is kind of where, I mean, it kind of just makes obvious sense, but I know he said it and he's super smart, which is start doing more newsletters when you need to make more money, right?
Yeah.
So if let's say you've got 2 ad slots in each newsletter, and for a month, and you have 8 ad slots if you were just selling 1 per month to each advertiser. Well, if you sell 8 advertisers, you got a 9th person wanting to give you money. Well, you don't have room for them.
Right.
So then start a second day, right? Like that's probably the general thought. And the guy that I talked to, which his name's Nate, he'll be on in a couple weeks. Everybody should check that one out because I talked to him a couple days ago, and he's super smart and doing really well. But one of the things he told me is a lot of these, even the bigger advertisers, are coming to him as inbound. And the way again, this is kind of should go with everybody. We've talked about this before, is your newsletter is basically private. If you think about your newsletter, it is essentially a private thing that only, it's like an exclusive club. Like only if you're on the list, you really know about it. If you're on the list, you don't know it exists. Instagram is the opposite, right? It's public. It's not, I don't think it's as valuable, but it is valuable in the sense that it's public, right? So the better your Instagram can be, the more likely advertisers will find you. And then of course you're selling them on Instagram and the newsletter. You explain, yeah, we have this media company. We do all these, things, right? So he said he's getting a lot of advertisers inbound because he's doing really well on Instagram. So this is my general strategy going forward. Is exactly what I just told you, which is we're only doing once a week unless we get to a point where we're filling ads, which we're not now. And all other effort should be related to Instagram.
Yeah. No, you've confirmed for me exactly what I just said, and you make me feel better by saying that. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And where I need to place my focus. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And whether and when I farm out some of these things is to be determined. But for now, I think, focusing on, as I've been doing, publishing the newsletter once a week and really focusing on growing the Instagram through regular posting and valuable posting is my focus.
Yeah. And then a quick thing that we have not started this yet. Again, as you can tell, we have a lot of things that there's so many exciting things in this space, right? Things you can do and try. So I haven't done it yet, but I think it was John from Scottsdale is the one who I saw bring it up. I don't know if he found it somewhere else, but is trying to leverage ManyChat. So ManyChat is like a Instagram DM tool. Are you familiar with it?
I am, and I just set up hit that automation,
Oh, okay.
that follower automation. Just set it up, TJ.
Nice.
Where when somebody follows me, they get
Yep.
the
Yep.
the DM to subscribe if they're not. So
So
yeah,
that's another way. Great. I'm glad you're doing it. So you got to tell me how it's going because I probably won't get to it for another week or two. But if you think about, okay, well, growing the Instagram, how's that helping the newsletter? Well, if you have this ManyChat thing set up, that hopefully doing good on Instagram will literally help the newsletter directly because people will follow you when they get that DM like, hey, did you know we send emails about this? You should sign up. So that's I'm glad you're doing that. And I bet you most people listening to this don't know about this. So they should look into ManyChat and trying to do this.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
when we talk next, maybe I'll have some data for you. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so fresh. I think I set it
Yeah.
up. What is today? I set it up a couple days ago.
Yeah.
We'll
Nice.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, Jimmy, this has been really good. I'm glad you came on. This has been great. So much good info. So if people, obviously, if you're in Charleston, you should follow, subscribe to his newsletter. But is there any, do you want people to reach out to you if they're wanting to chat with you? I know you're in that. Well, I'll say this. You're in the newsletter club. So obviously
Yeah.
they can chat with you in the newsletter club if they join that, which I recommend people do. Mike's going to come on the show tomorrow, I think, again. So
Excellent.
get some more there. So other than newsletter club, do you do any social media or do you want anybody to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to hear from people and see what they think. I mean, CHS dot happenings on Instagram,
Okay.
and
Just
and
DM you
yeah,
there.
I've been on LinkedIn forever and a day because that's what you did 25 years ago or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. They can hit me up on LinkedIn too. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll talk again soon. Thanks, Jimmy.
Okay. Thanks, TJ.
All right. Bye.